difficult times, if you are in the world of Harry and Meghan right now. Seemingly things, whichever you do, in which you hoped were going to be sort of, cut into the stratosphere of publicity, making you the number one talked about event. Well, you are, but for all the wrong reasons. And then someone comes along, someone who you wished you could be like, emulate, and so desperately wanted to appear on your recent podcast series. But sadly for you, they declined, seemingly in favour of this. As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Nice to see you today, as ever, yes. And thank you for your kind comments about the MP that was talking about making 30 pence meals. Caught a lot of traction on that, let me tell you. But I'm glad so many of you agree that we should be taught basic food skills, shouldn't we? Basic food cooking. I mean, it's not difficult, is it, to poach an egg or, beans on toast and stuff like that. We seem to be living in these app societies, these things where kids just download everything on their phone, including a cup of coffee, and expect it delivered. We all would in a world of Cleopatra, wouldn't we? Peel me a grape, that sort of thing. The reality is totally different. It seemingly is the reality that's biting now for Harry and Meghan, as we've now found out. Lots of content within their trailers, which is a couple of days away now, are not going down particularly well, seemingly fake, traded on, of course, the legacy of the late and beautiful Princess Diana. Let's not forget also that, while Harry likes to whittle on about how hounded his mother was, she did in fact tip off a lot of the media. I know this for 100% fact, she enjoyed the limelight. This was pre-social media. But as ever with celebrities, and that's what really Diana became towards the end of her life, she wanted it on her terms. Any bad pictures, any bad write-ups resulted in tantrums and tears. Remind you of anybody? But this is the bigger problem now if you are Meghan Markle, as I say, because it's an interesting thing. You've recently just finished your podcast for Spotify, of which they paid you millions of dollars, seemingly not made a ripple, in anything, if you like, for all the wrong reasons, the revelations that seemingly were just torn to shreds the minute that they came out. A podcast is supposed to be engaging, enlightening, and one of those things that you wish to return to. The problem that Meghan had was that people simply weren't returning. It's not necessarily about the caliber of the guests, although that does help, but really it's the topics, how enlightening you are, whether you want people to, engage with you. Seemingly Meghan found a topic she liked, stuck with it, which was herself. But what's interesting here is she did want this particular person on her podcast, and seemingly they couldn't find space in their very busy diary to do that. But they did find space in their diary to award another senior member of the British monarchy, Sophie Wessex, the Countess of Wessex, a wonderful award recently over in Washington. Now, what's interesting here is it says a lot, doesn't it, about how this was orchestrated, no fanfare, no great PR, simply Sophie flying over there to pick up an award from Hillary Clinton, from her foundation, for her humanitarian work for people who are suffering in war zones against domestic abuse and violence. A noble cause, whichever way you look at it. But as I say, no flag waving, no huge publicity, just that. Counter that with what Harry and Meghan are going to be doing tomorrow, which is, of course, picking up an award at the Ripple of Hope Awards about racism against their family and highlighting it. Wonderful. And it was engaging as well because Sophie sadly got a little bit emotional, but also was suffering from a cold. And I had to ask her that very British thing, does anyone have a tissue? I do like Sophie, Let's not forget, though, she's not without blemish herself, but, she's redeemed herself over the years with sterling work, dedication, and a beautiful close friendship with the Duke of Edinburgh, and of course our late and wonderful monarch, Her Majesty the Queen. So it's interesting to note, isn't it, now when you think about it, with Harry and Meghan, as I say, Meghan desperately wanted Hillary Clinton on that podcast. After all, a first lady being interviewed by a former cable TV actress. What a coup. What a directive, what a move back to the White House that Meghan had hoped and thought for herself. But even though Hillary has spoken out in defense of Meghan in the past, seemingly now that is truly in the past. And Meghan could only sit on in awe and, more importantly, envy as Sophie picks up an award from a person that Meghan had hoped would have sat down with her. As ever, when I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.